What's going on, guys? Car coming at you with another Magic the Gathering video. Today we're gonna be diving more into Ikoria spoilers. So I was recording Ikoria spoilers yesterday, and I kind of wasn't really happy with the way the videos originally were coming out. Just because I was originally trying to cram everything into one video, but I think it's best off for clarity purposes if I kind of break things up into multiple parts. I think I'll do 2 colors in each video, just try my best to kind of go over each card in a little bit of detail. I think now everything is completely out for the particular new set. I don't think there's anything we're still missing. Let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong, but I think at this point, as of Easter Sunday when I'm recording this or re-recording this, I believe every single card has been revealed. As Ikoria comes out, I believe Thursday for MTG Online. Overall, I think all the cards should be revealed. I don't think there's anything that we're not seeing. But to get things started off, I just wanted to kind of go back through. I just felt like yesterday when I was just trying to rush a video out, unfortunately, just trying to keep up with schedule. I think if I kind of like focus on just, getting the videos into a decent quality and then recreating, them in a more clear way, I feel like the overall videos will go over better. So today's video, we're going to go on like this thing. If I think a card is going to be decent and competitive, I'll talk about it, like how I can see it maybe playing a role in some sort of competitive way. If it's like on the fence, or if it looks like it's just going to be like a strictly limited card that you may not see a whole bunch of play in outside of a limited, like a draft or a sealed. So guys, if you like the video, you hit the like button. If you want to know when I post more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, as I'm going to be kind of posting these on the daily just to kind of get them out before it all releases, because I think after today, I'll have green, I'll have artifacts, and then I'll have lands and stuff at the end. I may have to combine those all into multiples just because I'll only have one color left, and artifacts and lands I don't think make up a lot of what's left, and I think planeswalkers. So I think I can combine the last 3 couple things into like one big category. So, all right, as you kind of were seeing from the intro, we're kind of already on black is what we're going to start off with. Hopefully everything is kind of seeable, as if I click on things, it kind of resets where we are on a web page that I'm using for the spoilers. You may have used this before. It's just empty. It's called Mythic Spoilers for Ikoria. It just has everything in an organized way where we can kind of start in rares and work our way down to uncommons and commons. So hopefully it just makes it easier to kind of go over and kind of figure out like, what we think on each card. Let me know down in the comments below if you're excited for Ikoria as well, as we go over, if there's a particular card that maybe in this particular video that we're going to go over that you're really excited to throw into your deck. You'll probably see somewhere where I'll post a card or something saying about the last video. But overall, let's dive into it instead of wasting this time on explaining things. So first up here, we're going to go with Dirgebat. It is a 4-cost creature card with a mutability of 6, 4 colors, 2 black. It has flash, has flying, and whenever this creature mutates, destroy target creature or planeswalker your opponent controls. I think it's decent. I don't know how good it's going to be. I mean, it's a decent 3/3 for 4 with flying and flash. Could be somewhere in a flash deck, like a Demir flash maybe. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know how good a mutate's going to be, but maybe in a control deck you're going to have a lot of mana, so maybe be able to mutate it. I don't know if you're going to mutate this onto something just because the mutate cost is very high, but I think you could probably mutate something that's probably smaller onto this and then get the ability of mutating stuff. Overall, I think it's a decent card. May see some competitive play, but I don't think there's gonna be decks running this because of its effect. I'm kind of on it. I don't think it's gonna be, like I said, amazing. So next up we got Extinction Event. This one I'm actually a little bit more excited for. It's a kind of like a board wipe for black. Not that they really need another one, but this one is you choose odd or even, exile those creatures of the current mana cost of the chosen value. 0 is even. So maybe you're mono black, you're playing against red, like a red aggro deck. A lot of their really good cards are 1 and 3. You play this, you get rid of their annexes, you get rid of their knights, you get rid of their little lizards, all that stuff. This card can actually be very good and exiles them. They don't die, so if annex is on the board, they don't get the tokens as a reward from you playing this card because it leaves the battlefield, doesn't go to the graveyard. So overall, I think it's a pretty decent, solid black card. Even if you play even in a Demir matchup or even in any sort of control that runs some sort of black, this could be a decent card to run if you don't want to splash white for like a board wipe, or maybe it's a little cheaper than playing like maybe a time wipe. Maybe I don't know. It could even be. We just have to wait and see on the matchup, but I can see this being in competitive decks of some sort, especially at the beginning of the set when people are still testing things out. Next up, we got a 3-cost, 1 colorless, 2 black menace creature, Hunted Nightmare. It is when a Hunted Nightmare enters the battlefield, target opponent puts Death Touch counter on a creature they control. So it gives you a drawback from playing this card, kind of like that the goat guy that gives your opponents goats. This one, because you're playing black, maybe play some cards that kill spells. So I mean, for 3 costs to get 4/5 with menace, if they maybe only have 1 creature on the board, given a death touch counter is not the worst thing. If they get more creatures, then maybe it becomes a problem. But I mean, if you play like a balance of creature spells that kill off creatures that your opponent controls, and this, I could see this being a pretty decent 3-curve card that could hit your opponent and they may not have anything to do about it. Especially in a control matchup when your opponent doesn't really play a lot of early game controls other than the walls from the enchantment. So I think this card could be decent. I could see this card being in some competitive mono black decks, and or even in like mono black devotion. This card has 2 devotion counters on it automatically when you play it. So I think it'd be good in a mono black devotion deck. I mean, I don't know. It could be in maybe a Dimir matchup, maybe if you want to get a little more aggressive. But overall, I think this could be a pretty solid card in competitive play just because of the cost, and I don't think the effect is not that bad for a deck that plays spells that destroy creatures. Next card up, we got Mythos of Nethroi, 3 cost, instant speed, target. This is the one I think I was talking about in my yesterday's video where I still am reading the spell. I don't really know what it does. If someone can really clarify me what this card does, it says destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature, or if green or black was spent to cast a spell. So the way it can technically reads to me is you have to play the green and white in order to make this effect work. I don't know. Something just comes very, very off. I don't see like a comma or a period. I mean, I think that's a speck of dirt on my screen, but after the permanent, I don't see anything there that breaks it up. It says destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature or green or black white was spent to it. I every time I read this, I still have yet to clarify what this does, because it has non-land permanent and then says something about if it's creature. So I don't know if they flip some things around. I don't know how rushed this set was out or if this was proofread, but this is one of those cards that I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So maybe it's just the spoiler got translated weird and the translation's not working out, because that's clearly what it looks like. Something's just not lining up with this card, and hopefully when we get the set out, we're not going to get a card that's broken. It doesn't really do anything, and then they have to do like reprints or something. I don't really know. So like I said, leave a comment down below if you have any idea what's going on here with this card. Next up, we're going into the uncommons. I guess there's not many rares in black. I mean, the set is 274. That's why sometimes some of this feels like a little weird, but I think there's a lot of cards that have splash like effects where it can either black or, you know, black or this color, or it may just be multicolor. I don't know how they're balancing the rares in this set, but there's only 4 rares in black as of what this looks like, because if you scroll down, it goes into uncommons and commons, so I don't see any more. So I don't know 100% if this is literally all the spoilers, but I think from what I've heard, this is literally every single spoiler. Every spoiler is out for the set. There's not a missing card from it. Bastion of Remembrance, it's an enchantment cost card that costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human token on the battlefield. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. So I could see this being very, very annoying. Not in the sense of getting the free token when it comes into the battlefield, but I can see it be very annoying in decks that run Oven, because every single time that cat comes on the battlefield, you lose 1 life, they gain 1 life, and whenever you sacrifice that cat, they lose 1 life, you gain 1 life. So I think this is going to make these cat Oven decks a little bit more permanent. I could see this card being played in like a black cat Oven deck of some sort, where there's a deck where they're sacrificing creatures to, you know, scry the top of your deck, or maybe to get counters or tokens for your shepherd or something. I could see this card actually seeing competitive play. It doesn't really have like, oh my god, this card's great, but I could see this make your opponent just lose additional life, become very, very annoying or prevalent in decks. It could even be a budget build if you can't afford some of the rares in that particular mono black deck that would be running like shepherds and stuff like that to get other effects on top of, maybe you don't have the 3 cost black creature that whenever you play a creature, your opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. I could see that being like your cheaper end version for our budget version of that card. I could see this seeing some competitive play in some sort of way that maybe you, or even in a weird cat Oven deck that just makes you kill your cats and you just deal extra damage. I don't know. I think it's pretty decent. It's gonna get annoying, like I said, because not everyone likes cat Oven. Next up is Call of the Depth Dweller. I'm going to kind of scroll up. The cards will be directly kind of above my head, just to kind of give you a heads up, so you're not like wondering where I'm looking, or I'll kind of put my mouse counter on it. So it's a 3 cost source. So return up to 2 target creature cards from convert my cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, put a death touch counter on one of them, and then put a menace counter on the other one. So this is interesting. Yet again, like was saying before, you can return a Hunted Nightmare onto the battlefield. Maybe your opponent plays a board wipe, wipes your whole, they play Day of Judgment, wipe the whole board. Board's gone. Play this card in your turn. Next thing you go, boom, you got your Hunted Nightmare back. Your opponent has yet to play, a card. You get some free stuff back on the battlefield, and you can give those 2 cards, for the way it looks like, I guess you either can return up to 2 target cards that cost 3 or less. So you can return something with like 3. You can return something with like 1 and 2. I think this is a pretty decent cheap end, and you also give them a menace and a death touch counter. You can give, and the way it says, it doesn't say either or. It says that you can give one creature this, one creature that. It doesn't say you have to give them each a different counter. It just says you can put the counters wherever you want. So you may put it on something that's like, you bring your Hunted Nightmare back. Well, it doesn't need menace anymore. Maybe just throw the death touch counter. I don't know, but I'm just saying, or something like that. I don't really know. Yet again, these counters are also going to get really messy in physical play, so that's something I'm not going to be excited to physically see people play with these counters and have to put bits and pieces of paper. I haven't seen anything for tokens to signify these counters on target creatures. So yet again, another thing that's going to get very confusing. But I could see this being a decent card in like a competitive deck that is all about bringing stuff back from the graveyard, and just another card that just kind of helps you do that. I mean, it's a sorcery. It's not terrible. 3 costs, not bad, and it kind of has like a decent benefit. I don't know. I could see it being good. There's cards to make dump cards in the graveyard. You can get a Croxa back with this, to be quite honest. I mean, instead of paying the 4, you can kind of throw a Croxa back on the battlefield, make it, if it didn't get escape, it gets sacrificed again, yet again, you do 3 damage on top of it, and then next thing you know, boom, effect yet again. Chatter, I can see this, like I said, it just seems very, very good for the cost and everything. Chatter Harvester, 6 costs, 4/6. Whenever this creature mutates, opponent each sacrifice a creature. Limited play. You're probably gonna see this in your sealed or your draft for the set when it comes out. Not very competitive in a way, too expensive for like a good black deck. Mutate, this mutates is kind of expensive too. 5 is not any better, but I mean the effect is very good in limited play if you're just looking for some kill creatures. So I think it could be good if you're looking to run some mutate in limited and you want something to make your opponent sacrifice a creature. Duskfang Mentor, 3 cost, 1/3. When it enters the battlefield, put a lifelink counter on target non-human creature you control. Tap 2, put a +1/+1 counter each creature you control with lifelink. This could be interesting. You could play this maybe in a competitive like budget and mono black deck. You throw it on that bat that gets annoying. It's kind of like the pride mate of black decks, and give it lifelink, so now it gives itself +1. It gives itself, lifelink, and then so every time it attacks, it grows bigger and bigger. And on top of it, you can play this, tap it, and get a +1/+1 counter additionally on it. Or if you have other creatures with lifelink, just more counters across the board. I could see it being good, because I think it's a vampire bat, so this actually works. I could see also being weird tribal decks trying to find the balance of humans and non-human creatures in a deck. So these, I could see there being something. I just haven't come across anything yet of like a final list. Maybe looking at all the sets as a whole and maybe trying to see where this can kind of fit in. But definitely a good solid card also for limited. I could see this being very, very good in a limited deck just because of the cost. What it does, lifelink's always strong in limited. I mean, gaining more life is always a good thing, and I think giving things +1/+1 counters if you have nothing to do is a very solid ability. Easy Prey, 2 cost, instant, destroy target creature, convert mana cost 2 or less. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's very specific, which is the problem. So I could see it being a sideboard card maybe, just in case you're playing against some aggro, small aggro. Like a mono red deck. It doesn't play a lot of big aggro. Most of the threats other than like the Annex and the Torbrands and Embercleaves are the expensive cards. Everything else, for the most part, is cheap. So, I mean, I can see this being a good, let's just play this against mono red in the sideboard. Maybe run like 1 or 2, maybe run like 2 of them, maybe in the sideboard. But I think it's a good, effective card, and it has Cyclone. So, I mean, maybe if you play it main board, you can always cycle it, draw a card regardless. So, you get something out of it one way or another. But I could see this being some playing competitive. Grim Dancer, 3 costs, 3/3. Grim Dancer is battlefield with your choice of 2 different counters on it: Menace, Death Touch, and Lifelink. In a mono black devotion deck, I think this is a solid play. I don't know where it fits in the list, but I mean, it's a 3/3 for 3, and you can bring it into battlefield either Menace, Death Touch, or Lifelink. Actually, 2 of those counters go on it. So a Menace guy with Death Touch, so or a menace guy with lifelink actually sounds pretty good. I mean, especially turn 3, if you're not playing something against super even more aggressive, this could actually definitely hit on turn, you know, the minute it can attack and you're gaining life. So overall, I could see this playing good even in a competitive / budget version of a mono black deck that needs devotion. So solid card, I think. Next up is Heartless Act, another 2-cost. Destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. I can see this being a little bit more play than, say, let's say the other kill spell Easy Prey, just because it's 2-cost. There's a lot of guys that right now in the game, other than any of these guys that give +1/+1 counters or anything like that, they don't typically have counters on them, like especially your mono reds. I can see this being a very, very good target kill spell for 2. I think that top part is really the big bread and butter of this. The counters are an okay extra effect. I mean, you can play against their, I don't know, the Steamkin guy, but I honestly think this is just a good kill spell for 2, because it doesn't say any other thing. It just has some counters and can kill for 2 instant speed. So definitely solid. Instable Hemophage. It's a 4-cost, 3 mutate, Death Touch. Whenever this mutates, each opponent loses X life. You can gain X life, where X is the number of times this creature's mutated. I don't know. I think mutate is gonna be one of those limited effects. Like I said, it's kind of expensive to mutate. I mean, X is not a lot. Like if a creature only mutates once, I mean, when you gain 1 life, your opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, and I don't know. I just don't see you mutating it into like 6, 7 really crazy amounts. I don't know if there's any way to flicker it and make it mutate more, but I think mutate's like, you just either play it for the mutate cost, or you just, I don't know. I mean, maybe mutate's gonna be like another way of Voltron and like the enchantment decks. Yet again, I just don't see a card that makes mutate like amazing. But yet again, we'll see. Unbreakable Bond, 5-cost, sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it. I think great and limited. I don't think it sees a home in competitive play. I think there's better cards currently in the format. Maybe later when things rotate out. I think there's a better 5-cost card that brings stuff back from the graveyard. I think it's a rare. I just can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I think that's better. So I could just see this being a limited card. This is definitely good and limited. I mean, you always want to bring back a creature from your graveyard and give it lifelink. So pretty solid for that. Void Beckoner, 8-cost. 8-cost, that's expensive. 8/8, Death Touch, Cyclone 3, and then whenever you cycle this guy, you get a Death Touch counter target creature. Definitely solid and limited. Too expensive for competitive in a way that's what you're getting out of it to be good. But I mean, the cycle ability and also being just a big body and limited, I could see this being a card that's just going to annoy your opponent when you play this at the end of the game, or if the game drags on. So definitely solid. This is Zagoth Mamba. Okay, this is one of those cards where, okay, I could see this being a target for a mutate just because of this ability. And it's cheap, but it's a 1/1 for 1. So the idea is that you have to get into turn 3 or 4 in order to like mutate it is the tough part. But it gives target creature card and opponent controls -2/-2. I would say this is one of those cards you're going to use in a deck that you're going to use mutate for. So maybe something comes out with mutate, but as of right now, this card by itself is a very easy target to ping it or kill it or whatever. Like, it has to survive until you can mutate it. So I haven't seen any cheaper mutates than 3, so it's gonna be good and limited if you can get a lot of mutate cards. So I mean, solid card to give your target creature opponent controls -2/-2 every time it mutates. So I can see it being great and limited, but I don't see mutate being amazing in our current standard format. Let's see, we got a 6-cost Leech Boy over here, Blitz Leech, Flash. So guy with Flash, 6 costs, 5/2, a little iffy on the base life. When it enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls gets -2/-2 on the turn, and remove all counters from that creature. Great and limited. Target gets rid of any of the counters other than +1/+1 counters, gets rid of all counters. So great card to play in like limited if your opponent has like something with like lifelink, menace, death touch, vigilance, +1/+1 counters, whatever you name it. I mean, this is definitely a solid card for that, but other than that, I don't see it. It's too expensive for what it really does. You got Blood Curdle, 4 costs, instant, destroy target creature, put a menace counter on a creature you control. Great and limited. I think it's a little too pricey of a kill spell for standard format because it's only 1 creature, but great and limited just because you give something menace for the effect of 4. Other than that, we got Boot Nipper, 2 costs. Boot Nipper enters the battlefield, your choice of Death Touch, counter, or Lifelink counter. So 2 costs, 2/1, Death Touch or Lifelink, your choice. Great and limited. A little weak on the butt end to be a solid 2-cost card. I think in the black form, I think there's better cards currently that would fill this role, but I think it's definitely a good limited target for early game curve. Bushmeat Poacher, 4-cost, 2/4 guy. Okay, sounds pretty solid with the 2/4. And then tap 1, tap it, sacrifice another creature, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. Grain limited, very iffy for a competitive deck in any way, maybe in a budget build, but I don't see this card really getting further than limited play for the most part. Cavern Whisperer, 5-cost, 4/4, mutate 4. Whenever menace, it has menace, that's good. And whenever this creature mutates, each opponent discards a card. Okay, good limited card. Too expensive for, I think, competitive. Yet again, doesn't really have enough bang for its buck. But I mean, you're looking at commons right now, so I mean, you're not going to get a ton. We got Corpse Churn, 2-cost instant. Put the top 3 cards of your library in your graveyard, and then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, this one's actually pretty solid. This one's pretty solid here. Just on the basis of it gets something back for 2. So you get to remove 3 cards, and then you get to take a creature from your graveyard back to your hand. So maybe there's something that you discarded or died. Tap 2. I can see this being maybe like one of those cards, maybe like you're a Shepherd ended in the graveyard, you want to get it back. So 2-cost instant speed. Not bad. I don't know if it's super competitive, but I could see some people playing this card just because I think it's cheap enough to use this effect for a benefit of getting something out of the bin. Also solid and limited. I mean, mill yourself a little bit just to get a particular card back that may fit a situation, or creature card back that may fit a situation if you just need a creature on the board, or if you have something in your board that you can put in the battlefield and it'll change the game. So definitely good for a limited, and maybe see some playing like in competitive or like a budget style deck. 4-cost Dark Bargain, instant to look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Dark Bargain deals 2 damage to you. So it's a draw spell. In a weird way, it's like you draw 3 cards, pick 2 of them, and then instead of putting any of them back on the bottom or on top of your library, you just throw the 1 in the graveyard and you take 2 life. A little pricey for competitive play, but definitely a good solid card choice for your limited play in your drafts and sealeds. Deadweight, 1-cost enchantment, enchant creature, enchanted creature gets -2/-2. I think there's a good solid blue card that does the same thing but has flash, and actually has a bonus effect with flash, and I think it's just better, and I think it's also common, but this is more of a limited card, just an easy like -2/-2 enchantment card. So definitely getting your limit, but nothing, I don't see anything outside of that. Durable Coil Bug. It's a 2-cost, 2-cost, 2/2, and has a 5 spell, 5 mana ability. Return it from your graveyard to your hand. Great and limited, but I don't know. Limited card. Late game, maybe just need to get an extra creature on the battlefield, or you're not drawing anything, so here's something to do. Gloom, 1/5, 3-cost, limited card. I don't even think it's great and limited. It's kind of and you're not assigning damage through your toughness. I mean, I think that I saw something, you sacrifice a creature and you deal damage based on its toughness, but I think it's very situational. I don't even think it's great and limited. It's one of those cards that you're probably going to see at the end of like when people draft, just because it's a good blocker is about it. Lurking Deadeye, 4-cost, 4/2, flash. When Lurking Deadeye is the battlefield, destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. So weirdly situational. I guess you block, either your creature lives and their creature somehow lives, and then you're like, okay, Lurking Deadeye, finish it off, I guess. Weirdly situational for anything outside of a limited format, so that's where you're probably going to see it, just as an additional way to just kill a creature if you just really don't want it on the board that may have survived, or you just want the blocking and you have this in your hand. I don't know. Very, very limited. Memory Leak, 3-cost, target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a line of card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it, and then it has a 1 cycle. Definitely get unlimited. I think there's better cards that cost 2. You may take a little points of damage for it, but I think overall those cards are better, and they kind of do the same thing. I just can't think of the card off the top of my head, but I think there's a 2-cost card that does a little damage to you for the same effect. Doesn't have the Cyclone, but outside of that, it's okay. Mutual Destruction, 1-cost. Sorcery, the spell is flash as long as you control a permanent with flash. As additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. I mean, black doesn't really play a lot of flash. I know there's a card that I'm going to come up in the multicolor that has flash maybe in a weird Demure matchup, you can run this as a kill spell. It's sorcery, so you can't do it as an instant speed, which is kind of one of the downfalls. But I mean, maybe that's why it cost 1. If it maybe it was 2 mana and did the same thing, I don't know. So I mean, it could see some limited play in some of those Demure decks that may run some flash because of a card that we'll get to later in the next video. So then we'll go into Night Squad Commando. 3 cost 2/3. When it enters the battlefield and you attack this turn, create a 1/1 white human creature. So you attack, you attack, and then you play this afterwards. You deal, if you, it's just a benefit. I mean, 2/3, get an extra creature, definitely get unlimited. So, and it's also one of those interesting things I've been noticing that in black, there's things that add white human creature soldier tokens. So it's kind of interesting that that's part of the effect. So I wonder if there's something I missed maybe when we went over white that did the vice versa, or something that kind of works on that. I don't know. But definitely a solid card in limited just because of the bonus effect. If you play it after you attacked, you get a creature on the battlefield. So Rated Scorpion, 1 cost, 1/2. If it dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. I mean, it's not bad in limited. 1/2 doesn't really do a lot of damage, but I mean, the effect's not terrible. So decent blocker, but I don't see it being anywhere in competitive. Let's see. Suffocating Fumes, instant. Creatures of control get -1/-1 till end of turn. Cyclone 2. A little slow, but I mean, the -1/-1 is not bad for limited if your creature's playing small cards. In the current format, I know there's a lot of 1/1s and stuff, but I honestly think it's just a little too slow in speed. 3 costs is a little expensive for this effect, but I mean, that's probably why it's common. It's 3 costs for this effect. But definitely a good limited card. 2 cost, put a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter on target creature. All right, so a little bit of a pump card and a lifelink counter. I mean, not bad. I mean, if you want to give something lifelink, just kind of flash it in, maybe in an aggro style black deck. Maybe wants to throw a little bit of pumps and see how it does. I don't really know, but interesting. Unlikely aid, 2 costs. The target creature gets +2 and gains indestructible then a turn. Okay, so maybe you want to give something that is going to die in an attack. Maybe it has Death Touch, but you want to just deal a Death Touch, but you don't want to die. Put this on it. Yet again, it's one of those weird, interesting black pump spells that you don't see a lot of, but it's okay. Then you got the Whisper Squad, 1 cost, a 1/1. Tap 2, search your library for a card named Whisper Squad and put it on the battlefield untapped, and then shuffle your library. Great and limited just to get more of these if you can get more than just 1. So definitely a good way to get more creatures on the battlefield if you're not drawing any. So other than that, I don't see this being anywhere. I don't see it being like ways to get more bodies on the battlefield. I think it's too expensive for what you're getting. The 1/1's not really worth. Moving on to red, guys. All right, so we're getting into here. We got Lucca, the Copper Coat Outcast, 5 cost. Planeswalker. Oh my god, if you make the rating any smaller, it'd be worse. So we're just going to click on it. Right now, the card's going for like $17. I don't really know how good it is, but we'll read into it. It's a 5 mana Planeswalker, 3 colors, 2 red. +1, exile top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exile this way. You may cast this card from the exile as long as you control him. Okay, so if you can protect him, you can continue to play that particular card in your exile as long as he's out. I don't know, it's gonna be one of those things you get the balance piles of like what you've exiled with this. Or just in general, creature cards in your exiled. It's actually not bad. So it's not terrible. It's gonna be interesting to see how you're gonna protect him in order to keep him on the battlefield. It's gonna be my big thing. Let's see. You can tap -2, exile target creature control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher converted mana cost. Put that card on the battlefield and the rest of the bottom library in a random order. Okay, so this is where we see our little bit of gain and minus. So you can either exile top 3 cards of your library, get some creature cards in your exile, and then on top of it, you can take a card that you may have played. Maybe you have a 3 cost and you're looking for something with 4, a little bit bigger. You're gonna -2 him. You're gonna go through the top library looking for a 4 cost guy. Maybe you're just looking for that. I don't know. Maybe you're just looking for that 4 cost creature. Boom, you hit it. Exile that guy's now your other 3 cost creatures in exile. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you plus this already, I guess if you plus him, I guess you gain this effect forever. So I think you have to plus him at least once to gain this effect, and then you can do this, and then on top of it, you can always replay back the creature you exiled. So interesting. And then -7, each creature you control deals damage equal to its power. Oh, there's a typo. They're just missing a W. To each opponent. I guess if you have a decent board presence, you can just minus him completely and they just hit your opponent without even attacking. I don't know. I honestly think this ability here is going to be solid. I think you could probably build a combo around it where you kind of like the enchantment where you sacrifice this enchantment, you can kind of get something with a converted mana cost that is slightly higher than the enchantment you sacrificed. I think there's going to be a way to like sacrifice, upgrade your creatures in a way. I think this is going to be the card that you're going to use for that. So I think this middle ability is going to be one of those cards that could be like find your game changing like effect right off the bat. All right, let's see. We got Evercold Phoenix. It is a 4-cost, a 4/4 flyer. Whenever this creature mutates, create a red artifact token named Phoenix with 1 sacrifice feather, return Phoenix card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. 4-cost mutate 4/4. I know whenever you mutate with this gains this effect, so I don't know. I mean, unless you play other Phoenixes, but I think this is one of the very few Phoenixes I've seen. I don't know if any of the Phoenixes that are currently out, or if there are any Phoenixes currently out. I can't think of the 1/3 in red currently, if that's a Phoenix. I don't think so. The one that gains +4, I think gains like additional health every time you deal damage to an opponent. I don't know if that's a Phoenix. I think there's Arc-like Phoenix in Historic, so maybe there's some sort of like synergy with each of those. So maybe. Mythos of Vendrock, 4-cost, 2 colors, 2 red. Mythos of Vendrock deals 5 damage to among you choose 2 target creature and or planeswalkers. If white or blue was spent to cast a spell until your next turn, those permanents can't attack, block, and their activated abilities can't be activated. I don't know if a planeswalker ability is inactivated abilities, so if that's so, that'd be pretty interesting. You deal 1 and then you kind of ping 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 ping. They can't do anything. They can't attack or block. One of those things yet again you have to like remember. But interesting kind of like you just want to ping everything, just kind of like give you like an ability to just kind of either get in or maybe just finish something off. So I like how you can get kind of divide it as you want to. Maybe in a Jeskai deck, I don't know where it really fits. Be interesting to see. Unpredictable Cyclone, for 5-cost. If a Cyclone ability of another non-land card would cause you to draw a card, instead exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a card that shares the card type with the exiled cycle card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. All right, so I could see a combo being with this. Like maybe play a deck before these, you get this out, and maybe have one of these in your hand. You cycle this card, and what you're looking for is now you're gonna look through your library, reveal the top cards of your library until you get to another enchantment card, put that on the battlefield, pay it without its mana cost. I can see some weird enchantment combo kind of deck that kind of gets a couple enchantments out, maybe do something with it. I don't really know what you'd have to kind of put it together, and it kind of be very situational, so who knows really what happens. But a weird combo-y enchantment deck that would run this and maybe some other decent enchantments of various costs seems interesting, and some cycles. Yadaro, Wandering Monster. It's a 7-cost, 5 colorless, 2 red trample haster with Cyclone. Interesting. I'm already coming up with some conclusions. So I feel like you kind of almost combine these two in a way. You cycle him for this, and maybe only play him in as a creature in your deck, and then all you're gonna do is look for this creature, throw him on the battlefield. Could be a possibility, and then you throw him back into your battlefield. The only problem is it's one of those weird effects. One of those weird effects that if after you kill like the other one with the legendary rule, that one of these would die and go to the graveyard, and you can't shuffle them back in your library. But I could see something like weirdly like that to get one of these on the battlefield with this card. I don't know, kind of peeling together. But the ability here is every time you cycle him, shuffle into your library from your graveyard. So you put in your graveyard, put it back into your library. If you cycle the card, name him more than 4 times this game, put him onto the battlefield from your graveyard instead. So pretty much you do this maybe a few turns in a row. You play probably 4 of them just because you want to draw them. You do it 4 times in a row, and then eventually on the 4th time, this time he'll come on the battlefield for 2. So late game, maybe you use this to draw, and then you get the cycle in enough times and movies on the battlefield. I don't know if it's gonna be really amazing, but not bad of an idea of effect to kind of get it. It's a delayed kind of slow rolling, as long as you draw them is the big thing, and cycle them enough times. Blitz of the Thunder Raptor, 2 cost, 2 instant speed spell. Raptor deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard. If this creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile instead. I know there's that instant sorcery Niv Mizzet deck that kind of runs like in a lot of instant sorcery, so maybe this is like one of those target spells. You can, if you're playing against something a little bit more aggressive aggro wise, you can play some of these and kill something with it. Maybe sideboard, maybe not in the main board. Maybe you can fit like 1 or 2 inside the main board and put 1 or 2 in the side, just because you can cycle it in and out and kind of figure out based on what you need. Decent card. Maybe see some play in like in competitive like Niv Mizzet deck of some sort. Clash of Titans, 5 cost, instant. Target creature fights another target creature, each damage to its power to each other. Good unlimited, too expensive for competitive. I think 5 is too expensive for a red deck. Red decks really run small cards unless they run in something a little more control-y, but most aggressive red decks that are playing creatures are going to run smaller creatures that are probably not going to top out at like 5 if they're doing their job right. Unless you're playing big stompy red, maybe you run some of these, but other than that, I don't see you needing a 5 cost fighting card. If anything, you splash green. I think there's cheaper ones that cost 2, a red and a green, and gives you a +1/+1 counter for that. It's cheaper and instant speed as well. Flame Spill, 3 cost, instant. Flame Spill deals 4 damage to target creature. Excess damage is dealt to the creature's controller instead. A little more expensive Lava Coil, but the excess damage then goes to the opponent. Other than the difference would be you don't get the exile. So I don't know. It's definitely very specific, just like Lava Coil. It's just I don't know if that extra damage going over the top to the face is going to be the payoff to get rid of Lava Coils for this card. But we'll have to wait and see. Footfall, Crater, 1 cost, enchant land. Enchanted land has tap. Target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn. Get unlimited. I don't know if you run this in anything competitive, but I mean, maybe there could be a deck that runs this. Just kind of just get like, it's a land now that becomes other than producing the mana that produces. It can also tap it, and now it gains something haste and trample. Maybe in a Gruul deck, a green-red deck-esque. Maybe looking for some more hasters. Maybe you want to give something, I don't know, want to give your like 3 cost Riot guy with the hexproof, play him, and then you maybe give him a +1/+1 counter, and now you tap this and he just gains the haste or on top of it. Maybe just want, I could see there being some play of putting this on the battlefield on a land as long as I don't think they're playing many, but it's a cheap enchant land with a decent ability that gives a land an additional ability other than produce mana. So we'll have to wait and see. We have Frill Scare Mentor, 3 cost, creature, 3/2, base power and toughness. When it enters battlefield, put a menace counter on target non-human creature you control if it can't be blocked except by creatures of 2 or more creatures. Yeah, and then you tap 3. Good unlimited. I don't think some of these the effects are interesting, but I just don't think what the crowd does is gonna be worth to play it in like a competitive deck. I don't think you're gonna replace anything in like red aggro with this guy, to be quite honest. But you never know. Maybe in a budget deck, maybe you could find a role. Momentum Rumbler, 4 cost, 3/3. When Momentum Rumbler attacks, if it doesn't have first strike, put a first strike counter on it. Whenever it attacks, if it has first strike, it gains double strike until end of turn. You get unlimited. The double strike's only until end of turn, so it's not like it keeps the double strike after it already has first strike. So I don't know at a limited, I don't think it's gonna really fit for another card as of right now. Maybe in a budget, maybe even budget aggro build, but I don't really see anything past that. Pork Hue Parrot, 4 cost, 3/4 with a mutated 3. Tap, this creature deals X damage to any target where X is the number of times this creature has been mutated. Good unlimited for using mutate unlimited, but like I said, I'm still not feeling this mutate thing just because I don't find it to be cheap enough to be efficient. It's a lot of a build up. It's nothing like amazing right off the bat. So great unlimited. Unless someone comes up with this great limited mutate deck, I'm not really seeing it just at the moment. Sanctuary Smasher, 6 cost, 6/4, first strike, Cyclone 3. When you cycle him, put a first strike counter on target creature control. Great unlimited. Don't say anything past limited for what he can do. Reptilian Reflection, 3 cost enchantment. Whenever you cycle a card, you may put a Reptilian Reflection. Reptilian Reflection becomes a creature, a 5/4 dinosaur creature with trample and haste until end of turn. So I can see this being great limited. Maybe some weird synergy in like a cycle deck. There's not a cycle deck out there that like is currently in standard, so we'll have to wait and see how Cyclone goes in the standard format, if it's going to be used or if it's just going to be one of those abilities that are on certain cards, and I guess worst case scenario you're going to cycle a card. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how cycle plays out, but definitely a card that you can play in limited if you know you're going to cycle cards to kind of just get a creature just to have an attacker on the battlefield. I mean, for 3 mana and possibly playing on turn 3 and then on turn 4 play a Cyclone card and then it may be a creature, and then you get at least a good 5-point swing of damage to your opponent's face with trample and haste. So Rootleg Mulak, 5 cost, 1 enters the battlefield, exile target card with Cyclone ability from your graveyard until the turn your next turn. You may play that card. It's a limited card, 4/4, Cyclone 2. Can get something back to that maybe already has Cyclone, maybe like something like this that you dumped for early card draw or something, or a cheaper cycler you just like dump for card draw and you want to get back for the later game. I can see this being limited, but nothing past that. We got Weaponize the Monsters. It's a 1-cost enchantment. Sacrifice a creature, weaponize the monsters, deals 2 damage to any target. I could see this being weirdly surprising as like a kamikaze like mono red build. And so you get your opponent low enough, and then each of your creatures now becomes almost like a shock. A 2-cost shock. So it like as your opponent gets to like, let's say you have 4 creatures by the time your opponent gets down to 8 in like turn 4, or maybe they're even lower. It's like now you can like take your creatures and throw them at your opponent. You just use them as like shocks to your opponent's face. So I could see this being weird in like a weird Cavalcade-esque style matchup. It's like I'm gonna almost swing my little 1/1s, deal like the damage with the 1/1s on top of it, the Cavalcade, and then I'm gonna play this as well. And I'm just like, well, I can now fling him in your face for 2 damage as well on top of it. And it's like it's gonna be. I can see there being something in competitive playing something around this and like Cavalcade and just doing like insane amount of like quick damage. You got Blazing Volley, 1 cost. Blazing Volley does 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Well, I guess this is the anti-card for playing a lot of 1/1s in like a Cavalcade deck. So this is kind of like a kill tokens for 1 mana. Could see it being like a sideboard card, maybe something a little bit mid-range in a red format, or just looking to wipe out a board that has a lot of 1/1s on it, or tokens. I don't know. 1 point of damage, but I get it. It's 1/1 sorcery speed. Have to wait and see if it sees play anywhere outside of limited, but definitely a card that you'll definitely see in limited if there's a lot of small creatures. Yeah, Blister Spit Gremlin, 1 cost, 1/1. 1 and tap it. It deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap it. It's okay. It could definitely see play unlimited when you play like sorceries and stuff, but I think there's better cards out there that has kind of like this effect but are stronger, that are not going to get like just killed off easily. So we got Cathartic Reunion, 2 costs. As initial cost to cast a spell, discard 2 cards and draw 3 cards. So this is interesting. It's one of those things. It's gonna be a 2 costs, draw 2 cards, or discard 2 cards, but then you draw 3 cards for 2. So it's like, do I discard 2 cards first and then pick up 3 new ones? Maybe this is what maybe this replaces something at some point if it cycles out, but it's gonna be one of those weird things. It's like, do you choose one or the other? It's a little pricier than like getting something with Spectate on it, but we'll have to wait and see if it's gonna be worth it, if you'll see it in red decks. Yeah, Cloud Piercer, 5 cost, 5/4 with reach. Whenever your creature whenever this creature mutates, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. Limited, don't say anything past that just because it's too expensive. Drained Stinger, 2 cost, 2/2. When you cycle another card, Drained Stinger deals 1 damage to each opponent. Could be interesting. The only problem is it's a small body, so it could get easily targeted and killed off. But I can see if there's like a Cyclone deck out there, maybe running some of these, but currently there isn't. So I just, outside of limited, I don't really see anything for that. Ferocious Tigorilla, 4 cost, 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may, with your choice of trample, counter, or a menace counter on it. I think for something like this, you probably want to put menace, personally, just because it doesn't have a very big butt. So you want it to not be blocked by except by 2 creatures. So I think that would be an interesting thing. Then put a trample counter on it. I mean, unless your opponent's playing weenies and like limited, I think this is better to be a menace guy than a weenie guy, or a trampler guy. Fire Prophecy, 2 cost, instant. Fire Prophecy does 2 damage to target creature. You may put a card from a creature card. Wait, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library if you do draw a card. I could see this almost being like a replacement for Lava Coil, just on the basis of 3 damage isn't 3 damage, not exile a card and getting a card out of it, I think is good. So you can almost get rid of something in your hand instead of throwing it in your graveyard. You almost throw it in the bottom of your library for now, and then eventually you get to draw a card. So it's like 3 damage, get rid of a card, and then you get to draw a card. So it's like 3 damage, discard a card, draw a card into your library. I don't know. I think this is more of a thing for replacing like a Lava Coil or something that costs 2 for a burn card to get like this ability, and it's instant. I think this should actually secretly like one of those hidden like gems of a common that may actually see a lot of play in a red deck. Forbidden Friendship, 2 cost, sorcery, created 1/1 red dinosaur creature with token with haste and a 1 white human soldier token with on the battlefield. So it's like you just get it's a 2 cost, create 2 1/1s, 1 dinosaur with haste, and then 1/1 white human soldier token. So it's a little bit of a token generator. Good and limited. I don't know anything past that, so I don't see anything past that. Frenzied Raptor, 3 cost, 4/2. That's it. Limited card. Go for the blood, 2 cost, sorcery. Target creature you control fights another creature you don't control and has cycle. See, I think this 2 cost sorcery spell is better than the 5 cost instant speed fight spell for red. So I would see this probably seen more play than the 5 cost one. Even though the other one's instant, I just don't think 5 is way too expensive. Yeah, heightened reflexes, 1 cost. Target creature gains +1/+0 until a turn. It gains put a first right counter on. I can see this seeing some play. You know, maybe don't draw your little fervent champion and you play this on top of a card. Now one of your other guys are 2/1 with first strike. Could be interesting. A Lava Serpent, 6 cost, haste, 5/5, cycler. Good and limited. Don't say anything past that. Prickly Marmoset, 3 cost. Whenever you cycle a card, Prickly Marmoset gets +2/+0. I can see this being definitely in a limited deck, just to kind of get like if you're using Cyclone for like flinging a little bit of damage at people, and then on top of it, this gets a little bit bigger. So I can see that. Pyroceratops, 4 cost, 2/3 trampler. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, interesting and like limited if you're playing some sorceries. Let's see, we got Raking Claws, 2 cost, instant, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. I don't know. It seems like a weird trickery kind of thing. You surprise your opponent with double strike instead of, instead of a pump. So I don't know, maybe. But I don't, definitely good and limited. I mean, give something double strike is always good. Rumbling Rock Slide, 4 costs. Rumble Rock Slide deals damage to target creature equal number of lands you control. Very, very good and limited, just because if you want to kill something big, this will be by like late game, probably like at least 7 damage, 6-7 damage maybe. Good card to splash in some red in a limited deck. I don't see it any worse because I think the gate card is a lot better because it wipes the whole board based on how many gates you control. So I don't see anything past that. Shredded Sails is a 2 cost instant, and then you get to choose one, destroy target artifact. Shredded Sails is 4 damage to target creature flying or cycle. Very situational. Maybe in a sideboard as a sideboard card for if your opponent's playing some sort of artifact or a lot of flyers. On the budget end, maybe you don't have some of the more expensive cards, but I mean for 2 instant, it's not a terrible card to do either one of these guys. Then you got Spell Eater Wolverine, 3 costs, 3/2. When Wolverine has when Spell Eater Wolverine has double strike as long as there are 3 or more instant graveyard cards in your graveyard. I can see this being good in limited, very situational in like competitive or in a Mystic style deck, just because if it's 2. But I don't know, maybe this can somehow make a appearance, but I don't think it's strong enough, unfortunately, just because that 2 toughness is not going to keep it on the battlefield long. And then we got the last card, Tentative Connection, 4 cost, sorcery. This spell costs 3 less if you control a creature with menace. You can control a target creature on that turn, untap that creature, it gains haste. So it's like a weird active treason-esque spell. You gain a benefit if you have a creature of menace. Maybe in a Rakdos deck, because I know there's some cards in there that definitely have menace in there. Other than that, guys, that is the red. All right, so wrapping up everything, overall, I think the black and red are showing some interesting things on each side of the fields. There's some interesting cards that are kind of adding some additional things to black decks that are already out there. I think there's some interesting red cards that can kind of like make some weird combos that are currently happening in the meta. But overall, I think it's quite quite interested of these two colors. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think of the colors. If there's anything you're super duper excited in the red or black. If you want to know when I post these videos, hit that subscribe button. At the moment I'm posting these Ikoria spoilers I think once a day for the time being. Normally my schedule is 3 days a week, but because I want to get these out before Thursday, I'm going to pump them out pretty much once a day. So if you want to know when I post the next one, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next video.